Really, asshole? Really? Come on, man. Loser.
What do you need exactly? And what are you gonna pay? Okay? Leave it with me.
The grow house called. Well, I don't care because the mission's worthless. Wow, you cut that corner.
get it, guys. You love him or you hate him. But who is going to win over the electorate for 2022 and in California with the recall election, and that D and that R, that stands strong in these elections? It's the independent voters who must be convinced. And I will tell you this right now, Republicans are winning that one. Either through sheer incompetence and failure of Joe Biden and his administration, or through great persuasion from their excellent campaigning. To be fair, this ad from Donald Trump, Surrender in Chief, wow. You got Colbert criticizing Biden. You've got Jake Tapper criticizing Joe Biden. This ad is really, really something. And it's sad and it's scary. Look at this. When Joe Biden started, independent voters disapproved of Biden 44 to 42%. If that means Biden's overall approval at the start was carried by Democrats, and by losing them, he quickly jumped into disapproval. But now we can see independent voters have been increasingly disapproving of Joe Biden. You know why? I think a lot of independent voters are not playing the partisan game. They're thinking, okay, Biden won, let's give him a chance. I want to be reasonable. I don't want to play Biden derangement syndrome. But we got to be honest. A lot of what they criticized about Donald Trump was fake news. I'll throw it right to one of the most prominent instances, when Trump was with Shinzo Abe of Japan, and they were feeding the koi fish in the pond, right? The camera zooms in, and Trump dumps all the food in, and they made fun of him for it. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Who cares if Trump dumps food? But they said he was uncouth, disrespectful, and they just mocked him. Then the real footage came out showing that Trump just did what Shinzo Abe did. Or how about the very fine people hoax, where the media kept saying over and over and over again, Trump called people in Charlottesville very fine people when he said they should be condemned totally. He was talking about not the bad people. The media lies. And so I come out and say, I have to stop making me defend the guy.
I take it this isn't a social call.
I don't want to play Biden.
No problem. I'll scramble the signal for 1 minute.
To all the leftist commentators say Afghanistan was Trump's plan. He's the one who negotiated this deal, and it's on him because it's happening. No, it isn't. Trump is literally not overseeing the withdrawal. He's literally not the president. So you could have someone who's a manager at a McDonald's be like, I would like to roll out a new cheeseburger. And then you fire him and hire a new guy who botches everything. I'm not going to blame the guy who had the idea to do it and said, let's roll out a new cheeseburger. I'm going to blame the guy who didn't make the cheeseburger right. I go and order my burger, and it comes out and it's got 500 pickles on it. I'm like, this is not food. And pickles are good, but come on, too much, right? Or it comes out and there's no meat. Well, clearly the plan called for a burger on the bun. Whoever's managing this place right now has screwed it all up. Am I going to call the guy who said, I want to make it? No. And you see, they're so obsessed with Orange Man bad, even when Joe Biden is literally the president. I can blame Obama for a lot of things. I can blame him for a lot of the nation building and what's going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. You betcha. Donald Trump was president. And when Donald Trump was president, the buck stops with him. He should have fired him out a lot of people. He didn't play right. I'll tell you, I'll tell you, at least as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a partisan Republican. I don't like the Republican Party. They don't do anything. I am disgusted and furious because they waste my time. There's a handful of good Republicans. We always shout out Ron Paul, of course, and Thomas Massey, of course. Ron is retired because they're great. There's a handful of others who fight, and I can respect that. Marjorie Taylor Greene's a fighter. Lauren Boebert's a fighter. Matt Gaetz and Hawley and Cruz, they seem to be, standing up. But Rand Paul is always been a big fan of Rand Paul. The filibusters and the NDA and things like that, because if you truly believe in freedom, you need something like that. Fortunately, so here I am trying to figure out what to do now. These independent voters, where Joe Biden's approval rating is 31%, that's what matters. That is ultimately what matters, in my opinion. Because these are the people who are going to be voting in 2022 in California. And right now they're saying, we wanted to give Joe Biden a chance. I felt that way. Look, you win some, you lose some. There's a whole lot of contentious stuff around the election. But let's not sabotage the plane because we don't like the pilot. Now, perhaps the pilot is flying us in a direction we don't want to go. And so we'll keep voicing our concerns and be like, look, you do a good job. You fly the plane. We'll give you credit where credit is due. Instead, Biden fell asleep, and the plane's going, and we're just like, someone do something. So much for the threats. Taliban ignored Biden's request to let civilians to Kabul airport, and Westerners are beaten. U.S. airlifts more than 19,000 in 24 hours as desperate Afghans cause a stampede at the airport amid fears of an ISIS-K attack. That's how bad it's getting, man. Take a look at this. U.S. begins reducing troop levels at Kabul airport. You want to know why that's significant? They said that Donald Trump was a slap in the face of our allies and making America look bad. Okay? From the AP. G7 leaders can't sway Biden to delay Afghanistan withdrawal. He already did. Biden has screwed this up to such an absurd degree that now even the U.S. allies are roasting him. The withdrawal was supposed to be May 1st. Biden had just about 3 months to carry out the deal. It should have been his first priority. A lot of people have pointed out, well, there's a few things I'll say. One, look, I don't know classified information. It's easy for me to sit back and armchair criticism and be like, oh, Biden, you should have done X, Y, or Z. But the X, we didn't just decommission it and put up a sign saying we'll be leaving X amount of time. In the middle of the night, we just left, and looters came. And we could have been using Bagram for the air evacuations. That was absolutely absurd. Failure. And Mark Milley, joint woke chief or whatever, comes out and says, well, I was told to guard the embassy. Moron. Were there no adults in the room to be like, maybe we should keep the Air Force base? Doesn't it make sense? This is the craziest thing. When I saw all this, I was like, why wouldn't they do the evacuations before pulling the troops out? Does Biden want this? No, I think it's simple. Let's make the least amount of assumptions. Joe Biden is not there. We know he's not there. He barely speaks. He won't take questions half the time. Most of the time. And we know it. Biden was the result of an anti-election. People saying, no Trump. They didn't care who. And now you got a guy who's probably asleep all day. That's why he's doing his press events at 3 p.m. Because he's got to go to bed by 5. Sundowning, right? He's too old. He can't handle it. Kamala, Milley, politicians, is it this administration? They're not competent people who want to do the right thing by the American people. They're power-hungry, despotic, petty tyrants. And they're just sitting there thinking like, I take responsibility for this. Don't look at me. So there's no adults in the room. And it's just falling to chaos. The U.S. has already started to withdraw its troops. Okay. The problem here is, we want them to be withdrawn. It's a good thing to get out of nation building. As Bannon mentioned the other day on the show, imagine if we took $2 trillion and put it into America. The working class is getting screwed. They're sending your children, your brothers, your sisters, your friends to go and die to nation building, extracting U.S. taxpayer dollars and lives. For what? So it's good we're getting out. I can respect that. The problem is, we need to evacuate the Americans, right? Isn't that it? Everything I'm talking about is for the betterment of the American population and citizenry, and those who are stranded in Afghanistan. I don't want to remain in Afghanistan, I want to get out, but at least we can say, okay, let's get the Americans out and then the troops. It'll be part of the same evacuation. Herein lies the main issue. When they announced they're withdrawing the U.S. troops first, they're saying that those Americans who are there are trash. They don't have to save them, and it doesn't matter. The American military should be defending the American people. They are leaving Americans behind. I want the withdrawal to happen. I want the troops to leave. But the withdrawal includes the American citizens who are there, which means priorities. If we're going to have an effective withdrawal, Americans evacuate, followed by military. Joe Biden won't do it. Why? Because he surrendered to the Taliban. He is just doing whatever they say. He said, you know, the CIA chief gets sent to negotiate with them. And the Taliban says, no deadline change, August 31st or else. It is going to be. I hope not. When they say, you have until August 31st to get out, do you think they're only talking about the troops? Or do you think they're talking about 15,000? It may be around 11,000. They've evacuated a decent amount. But this 10 plus thousand Americans, do you think they're not included? The Taliban's going to tolerate them being there? Trump PAC hits Biden on Afghanistan a new digital ad. Former President Donald Trump is launching a new campaign-style advertisement on digital platforms, attacking Joe Biden, criticizing his embattled successors handling of the U.S. military in Afghanistan. The 90-second spot referring to Biden as surrender in chief is a montage of still photographs and video clips depicting the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan and chaos in Kabul, as Americans and their Afghan allies struggle to secure their evacuation from the South Central Asian nation. You gotta see, it's powerful stuff. And I want to make this point clear. Donald Trump did something fantastic in negotiating an end to the Afghan nation-building conflict. I thought it was wonderful. They criticized him for bringing the Taliban out. How dare he? And I'm like, let's get out of this country. $2 trillion, 20 years, and thousands of U.S. lives. Not to mention the tens of thousands or hundreds of civilians displaced and killed. And Biden came in and just didn't have the abilities. You know what's funny is that these people did not consider what was going to happen. They did not consider this. When you take a look at plans in place, they didn't think about what happens next year. They didn't think about if Trump has a plan for X and we swap him out with incompetent Biden, what happens? They just said, I don't want Trump, Orange Man bad. The Orange Man is bad, and the Demented Man, oh, but that's fine. See, they didn't think about that. It's hate. When I was talking to Bannon yesterday, on the member site, go to timcast.com, check out the member watches an hour long. It's fantastic. Biden asks me if I believe that, Bannon asks me if I believe that Biden, I do, right? Because I have witnessed some transformation among people I've known and trusted for a long time, among family members who used to be fun, smiles, barbecues, and they have become zealous, psychotic, rage-filled hate mongers. You've seen it, haven't you? All of a sudden, people you knew just insulting you and deriding you and calling you a maggot. And I'm like, did you see the change
Ooh, excuse me, that was disgusting.
Yes. The hatred has boiled up so much in their hearts. I absolutely believe they voted for Joe Biden. Not because they like Biden or want him, because they hate you and they hate Donald Trump. And so I absolutely can believe it. I was shocked to see scapegoats who I had known never cared about politics, just all of a sudden spewing vile, disgusting things. Look at what they say about COVID victims. They're like, I hope they die. It's scary, isn't it? When you see people saying, after you, screw you, I don't care anymore. The embracing of authoritarianism. Yes. Yeah, I can believe it. I look forward to seeing what happens with some of these audits, but the vile hatred, man, spread, and you end up with this pathetic leadership. Things are going to change. Bannon, I keep saying Biden. Bannon was saying the other day, the presidency is over. The people are seeing through it. How can Biden recover from this? I agree. Now they're starting to realize the incompetence and failures of this man. So yeah, absolutely. See how that manifests in the recall of the coming election in 2022. We'll get there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out. And I will see you.
California has problems, many problems, and they are all made by the democratic governance of the state for the last God knows how many decades. Right? So, problems include things like massive homelessness, massive amounts of drug addicts on the streets, insane taxes, harsh lockdowns, suffering small businesses fleeing the state, political corruption, wokeness run rampant, and mass illegal immigration. All Democrat policies, all done with, and again, just to be clear, California used to be the golden state. Everyone wanted to be in California. California was amazing. It's sunny all the time. We spent money there. Then God, that was back in the day. You know, this was a place of prosperity and growth, and everyone wanted there. Now it's got declining population and human feces in the streets. So you can only mess that up in one way, and this has led to the Democratic governor of California, Gavin Newsom, being recalled. People are not happy with how he has been doing these things. And so I'm going to go through an explainer from the AP just to make sure it's a page because I have no idea California politics works. I just look at the videos of the drug addicts stabbing people with needles and think, go out there. So Republicans are hoping for an upset in the heavily Democratic state. The GOP hasn't won a statewide election since 2000. the Dividing Congress will play. California is one of 20 states that has provisions to recall a sitting governor, recall a sitting governor, 19 through elections. The state law established rules go back to 1911 and is intended to...
I cheated. I had to duck out. I was not losing the cops this time.
Repeal or pass laws by placing them on the ballots. So recall attempts are common in the state, but they rarely get on the ballots and even fewer succeed. The only time a governor was recalled was in 2003 when Democrat Gray Davis was removed and voters replaced him with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a Republican at the time. This was when he cared about your freedoms. Now I imagine he'd vote Democrat. Californians have apparently grown angry during the pandemic. Stay-at-home orders by Newsom, crushing job losses from business closures, shuttered schools, the disruption of daily life soured just about everyone. And you know why they've done this? They've done this because the Orange Man said, maybe people should be free. And they're like, well, we're going to do the exact opposite of that, so people are definitely not going to be free and we're going to turn California into a giant open-air prison. California's wallet-sapping taxes, rising food and gas prices. Oh yeah, that's another thing as well, isn't it? California, the Democrats are ruining the entire country by just making everything cost a huge amount more, which if you were a cynical class warrior, like a socialist maybe, who hasn't yet won his mansion, you might be thinking, well, that's a tax on the poor, isn't it? You know, rising prices on food and petrol, that's bad for poor people, if you care about such things. Anyway, so Newsom has been a target, a ready target for this kind of resentment. He's also being hit by the fallout from a multi-billion-dollar scandal in the state unemployment agency while weathering a public shaming of ongoing monsters while dining out with friends and lobbyists at an exclusive restaurant last fall, while telling residents to stay home for their safety. So again, you can see the exact thing. It's the elite aristocratic class of the Democrats taking advantage of the poor and struggling masses of California, and people have had enough of it. Yes, and Florida, where people are actually fleeing to en masse, and I don't blame them. If you get there and vote Democrat, then you should keep that. Anyway, voters are being asked if Newsom should be removed, which is a yes or no, so binary choice, and then on the same ballot they're being given confidence who should replace him. So what this means, you get, like, there are 46 names on the ballot, and so, it doesn't require a majority for someone to replace them. Just, whoever comes highest on this. So you could have like 20% or something like that and still be like, because of all the other votes, the other candidates didn't pass. So, the majority of voters approved to recall him, the candidate gets the most votes to become the governor, and that's interesting because there are lots of interesting folks on there. So there are 24 Republican candidates, former San Diego mayor and the businessman John Cox, who was defeated by this 2018, King Jenner, and the reality TV personality, former Olympian and famous trans person. There are 9 Democrats, but none of them are of any note whatsoever. So, like, you would never have heard of any of these Democrats. I've never heard of any of these Democrats. One of them is a real estate agent. Like, these are not people who are, AP says they're largely unknown and have not mounted credible campaigns. So basically, I guess the Democrats must be pinning their hopes on Newsom doesn't get recalled. So expect a fourth occasion of this one. Anyway, so Newsom was elected in 2018 landslide, and he has been viewing the recall as an attack on California's progressive policies, which it should be because California's progressive policies have destroyed it. Democrats say the effort to remove him is being driven by, quote, far-right extremists and former supporters of former President Donald Trump. Recall the background state of national Republicans, but organizers argue they have a north-based coalition including many independents and Democrats. Is everyone who opposes the Democrat majority of these far-right extremists? So the polling isn't actually very good for Newsom at the moment. He may have won in 2018 in a landslide, but good for the next one. You can see that it's getting worryingly close. Scroll down a little bit. It wasn't very close a couple of months ago. Hit about 50-50. So keep is 48% of the vote, move is 47%. If I'm Gavin Newsom, and I was looking at a 50% chance that I was going to get, shunted out of my constituency, I'd be thinking, wow, we're going to need a lot of million votes on this. Sweet. Yes, you would, yes, indeed. We'll go to it. So the question is, why is Newsom struggling? This is a very, very safe Democrat seat, you would think California would be. And so why is he struggling? This is walking. This is like there why is this one going to happen? Well, one theory from some person on this is that maybe it's because he's just really dislikable. No one likes him. He is, in fact, that's exactly how I frame it. His problem in the election is likability. It's not that he's disliked by hordes of voters. His job performance ratings remain decent, with 50% approval, 42% disapproval on registered voters from the July poll. But there is not much endearment, most crucially among Democratic voters. This is evidence of the apathy of Democrats towards September 14 They are rushing to rescue the government. Voter turnout is likely to be far higher among Republicans than Democrats and no party preference voters. This is one poll. If Newsom survives, it will be because of this era's rigid political polarization. Democrats won't be voting for him as much as they'll be rejecting what they consider the scary notion of turning over the governor's office to a Republican. Newsom,
They're scared.
I don't know. Because they're afraid that they're going to be told that they're being naughty. And that's how it comes across them. It seems like the children have been staying up late. That's the three, this. But anyway, they say that Newsom is a liberal San Francisco who made a fortune selling currency wine. So you can see it comes from Democrats. He's a manatee, Michael handsome, with perpetually coiffed hair that should be messed up occasionally just to look normal. His casual clothes on TV seem styled. That's all fine, but it doesn't connect with regular people. And he unfairly gets tagged by some brothers as pretty. Lots of parents, I suspect, because of his children were privileged to attend private school classrooms during the pandemic while the kids were stuck at home or in public schools. So there we go. He is how really he likes it because he's obviously taking advantage of this. And the question of likability, this I think is really important. Let's play this next clip and you tell me what he seems.
It's very good to see you. So let me start by asking you, where did you make $522.2 million? Last year we had 570. We had 546. Hey, I'm here to talk about tomorrow, today, and tomorrow. Yesterday I was working my tail off. I've been out. I think I had 69 public events in the last 2.5 weeks. You know, I heard something like that on the radio now.
This is
This press person said, this is done. It's 2 years off public events. Yeah, so, but look, you know the criticism that you have been dodging, not just the press, but also your public, that you have been sulking after dropping out of the governor's race, that you're having a terrible candidate. What do you want to say to that? I want to say that I've been working my tail out. I've been here, focused in San Francisco. I think I was gone 2 days out of the city in the last 3 weeks. We've done 69 public events. I've been as engaged or more engaged than ever. I don't read the press. It is comical, some of the things that have been written. So the cartoon in the Chronicle that depicted you as a crying baby, headlines, Mayor.
That was close.
Things done. You know, it's not just the press, though, that you've been absent from. I mean, I have a list of the events that you have missed. Which ones? Well, you want a few. The Urban Land Institute, you were scheduled to speak before 6,000 people. I had the flu that week. The China SF conference that was also there, they were counting on you. The Silver Spur Awards luncheon. That was the only one I missed that I actually knew about. No, I took 2,000 people. After I think you're focused on the Spur.
Goes on. So this
He reminds me of the money guy from Wall Street. He was the guy who's the money suit.
Yeah, he really reminds me of Christian Bale from Sniper.
Yes.
Right? His mannerisms, the way his facial expressions, the way he's holding himself, the way he fake smiles, he looks like a corpse. And so it's no wonder he's got likability problems. If you come across like the guy from American Psycho, you have a problem with likability, right?
You're the fire department should have went out just to get the next.
So anyway, so this is not going particularly well. So as the Democrat smear machine is in full force, the governor's campaign has attempted to target all opponents, including Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, and Republicans, as quote radical right-wing anti-vaxxers, QAnon conspiracy theorists, and racists who could threaten California's list of COVID-19.
You have any evidence of those accusations that usually don't?
Oh, we're going to get into much better evidence to how these accusations are complete bunk. Anyway, he extended his emergency powers to change California elections again, as he did in 2010 2020 election sent massive numbers of mail-in ballots to registered voters. I'm still a registered voter. I moved a year ago. Dead people are on the list. The state allows ballot harvesting by strangers. Wow. What a shock. I can't believe they're going to be using massive amounts of mail-in ballots to protect a very flimsy claim that a Democrat politician has. What a surprise. Anyway, there's a great clip just to show you the complete disconnect between the regular people and Democrats in California. This is a recent one where Nancy Pelosi was present. As you can see, you can scroll down a bit, the people serving them, yes, hordes of Democrats, hordes of the upper crust of the Democrat Party. Lovely place, none of them wearing masks. There's Pelosi speaking at technically and not wearing a mask, but of course the people serving them are all wearing masks, and many of them are of course people of colour. So as you can see, the Democrats, they seem overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly rich, and look like Southern plantation owners. Just saying, it's obvious who doesn't represent the authentic voice of California. But anyway, so let's go on to look at how Republicans are doing. So Caitlyn Jenner is up to 3% of likely voters. I expect 3% net, especially in California. But there's Assemblyman Kevin Kiley, who's on 5%, former San Diego mayor, and businessman John Cox, who are on 10% each. But the person who is at the very tippy top of the Republican candidacy, the commanding lead, is 18%. And this is driving them mad. So who is Larry Elder? So if you're not American, you might not know who Larry Elder is. So he is, if we go to the next one, a popular radio show host, describes himself as the sage of South Central LA is famous, internationally famous, for being insanely dangerous, especially through the 90s. This was the place you didn't want to go to. I've never been to South Central, I just know about it from the culture.
Ah, you got me! You got me!
On his Wikipedia page, described as an LA native who obviously had a strong fatherly presence in his household. He trained as a lawyer, but has worked in TV and radio for the last 30 years. I think he's best described as just being like a highly orthodox American conservative.
He's also the guy who beat the Dave Rubin for systemic racism.
Oh, it's up to you, New York!
And so
New York!
This strident, conservative black man is causing them to panic because, oh god, a dadist might get into the office. And the dadist is not going to be taking any of the kids' nonsense, is he? And so you can see this from the LA Times. The LA Times were really cacking their pants.
Wow! The guy in that car of mine, drive over to him.
Just article after article.
Go back to school!
Because I need to get the cops off of me real quick. Go. Let's do it.
So, yeah, you think that Larry Elder was like Jared Taylor or something?
Get in the armored car. Get in the armored car.
Just a quick montage. Larry Elder talks a lot too bad, you can't believe anything he says.
Ah, shit, the cops are coming back, I'll leave.
Offers no solution. Remind you of an ex-president. State officials open investigations whether Larry Elder failed to disclose income sources. Of course, when the Republicans are doing well against the Democrats, right, that's it. Bring the machinery of government on and try and destroy them, like they did with Trump.
If Larry Elder is elected, life will get harder for black and Latino Californians. One after another.
Yep. And so the best one, of course, was this one from, again, the LA Times. Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. You've been warned. Amazing. I love Larry's reply to this, just like, you've got to be real scared and desperate to play the race card against the brother from South Central. So yeah, good luck. What do you get? Hey, you're a racist, Larry. Oh, shut up. You know, if ever you needed...
It didn't even go with that. It went, you're all the black face of white supremacy.
Yeah, exactly. Then they just shot the KKK hood onto him or something. And it's just like, the thing is, if you ever needed more proof that their allegations of racism are total nonsense, surely this is it. I mean, surely this has got to be the apex example, right? So let's go through this article. This article is amazing, right? Larry Elder smiled the smug smile of a black conservative who could very well be liberal California's next governor. God, let's hope so. I'm loving this soul, right? Where do you start with the damage Gavin Newsom has done to the state that we both love, says Larry. He leaned forward to gaze across the room of white Republicans, important to know white, by the way, who had come to hear him speak in Orange County. Rising crime, it's because of this phony narrative that the police are engaging in systemic racism and the cops are pulling back. When you reduce the possibility of a bad guy getting caught, getting convicted, getting incarcerated, guess what? Crime goes up. Where's the lie? How is he wrong? He's not wrong, but that's why they have to be like, oh, the word for breakfast. Because he's not wrong, is he? You know? So the author says, I won't lie. Few things infuriate me more than watching a black person, capital B. Larry is not a capital B black person. He's just a small b black person.
Where is this going?
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing infuriates me more than watching a black. Oh, wait, what?
Watching a black person use willful blindness and cherry-picked facts to make an overly simplistic argument that whitewashes the complex problems that come along with being black in America. Well, if he's black and he's talking about these problems, how is it that he doesn't know these things? You know, maybe he just has a different perspective. She says, throughout his career as radio host and talking at Fox News and now candidate, Elder has made a point of doing just that, usually with a lot of taunting and toddler-like name-calling of his ideological enemies in the process. Hold your horses, I don't think you want to talk, okay? As I like
The headline of this article is The Black Face of White Supremacy.
Yeah, just you know, the irony is too much. As a long-time political
Are we loading or are we in permanent crowd simulator?
His way to be at odds with the leadership of the black community and at odds with the thinking in the black community. And so the question is, well, why not? How? Well, he's at odds with the leadership of the black community. That's because they're terrible and corrupt.
He's a racist.